Yo, what's up? It's Two Beasts here, and there is a couple things that I have to admit to right here in this video, this recording. The first thing I gotta admit to is being confused, man. I'm definitely not the smartest person in the world, far from it, but I do feel as though I have my moments where I can go like, you know what, I feel pretty smart right now in this situation, right? And the other thing I gotta admit is that I'm just a little bit frustrated, man. I don't know, man. Like, the fan in me is frustrated, but the person of logic is very confused. So for everyone that has ever listened to any kind of videos I've done, um, I don't do them too often nowadays, but most people will know that I'm a huge fan of Natalia Silva, right? Now, even if you take the fan perspective away from it, let's just think about this, right? Like, as a promoter, right? When you think about the monster that it is of running a MMA promotion, it would behoove the promoter to have as many options in their back pocket as possible, right? I mean, just from a logical perspective, you got injuries, you got weight misses, you got visa issues, you got all kind of things that could get in the way of you doing what you're supposed to do, which is promote fights, make the fights happen, book them, and, get the show rolling, so to speak, right? So it would behoove the promoter to have more options. Okay, here's the point I'm making, right? Let's say I'm crazy and they don't book the fight. Awesome. Now we could do Manon versus the loser of Val and Weili. And then we could do Silva versus Valentina. And then let's say Manon goes and beats Weili. And let's say in that fight, she specifically shows certain things that would suggest, okay, she's improved and she would do a lot better in a fight against Valentina again, if it should be booked, if Valentina were then to beat Silva. Or even if, let's say Silva wins against Valentina. Now, instead of having Silva versus Manon in a non-title fight, you have them in a title fight. I mean, a title fight is automatically going to be considered bigger than a non-title fight by default, right? I mean, sure, you got fighters in certain matchups you can make that will get the people more hype than a particular title fight, sure, but by default, a title fight between two people as opposed to a non-title fight between those same two people, it's not going to be as big. So here's the point I'm making, right? So if you do, which, they're foreshadowing that they want to do that, Natalia Silva versus Manon, winner faces winner of Weili Val. If they do that, it's going to be a non-title fight. Why would you want to make that matchup a non-title fight when you could make it a title fight? You feel what I'm saying? Like, hear me out, right? Like, if you do number one versus the champion, isn't that bigger than doing number two versus the champion? I mean, just from a promoter's perspective, right? Obviously, the UFC appeals to a lot of casual fans. So if the casual fan sees a number one next to the name of the person that's fighting the champion, isn't that by default bigger than seeing a number two next to the person's name who's fighting the champion? It's just basic logic. Forget about Silva. Forget about me being a fan of her. It's just basic logic, right? So even if they do plan on doing Silva versus Valentina or Weili, why would you convert the person who you want to fight for the belt to the number two spot as opposed to keeping them the number one spot. Like I just can't understand that. One way or the other, even if they still plan on doing Silva versus the winner, it doesn't make sense to drop her a spot below Manon. Just from that perspective. Now, if we're talking about the perspective of the rankings in general, how is it that beating someone 4 or 5 spots below justifies you jumping above number one when number one beat the former champ? Now, okay, let's say common opponent, right? That's the only logic I can think of is common opponent. Oh, Manon went out there and made it look easy against the opponent that Silva took 3 rounds into a decision. Okay, awesome. That number 3 is pretty significant here. Let's think about common opponents if we want to go that route. No offense to James Prez. I think James Prez is awesome. I ain't trying to get him riled up. But if we're going to go on the common opponent logic, oh, Manon knocked out the person that Silva took 3 rounds. Okay. Silva took 1 opportunity to dominate the person that Valentina took 3 opportunities to walk away with a belt. I mean, does that make Silva 3 times better than Valentina? No. I mean, so it can't make Manon all of a sudden better than Silva. It's a series of matchups, right? So for me, even if you want to use the common opponent logic, oh, Manon knocked out the person that Silva went 3 rounds. If that's the logic we're using, then Silva is 3 times better than Valentina all of a sudden. If we're gonna just go off a logic like that. So for me, I just can't agree with it. Whether they're going to do Silva versus the winner or not, it just makes absolutely no sense for Manon to be ranked above Silva when Silva just fought the former champ 6 months ago. It's not like a John Jones situation where, we're holding up a division for like a year plus now. Like, no one injured, no one, like, that's not that kind of situation. They literally told Silva, the rightful contender, she don't get to fight for the belt. How is that her fault? How does that justify bumping her down in the rankings? Manon beat someone that was a favorable matchup in a sense because her striking is significantly a higher level than Jasmine's. Whereas at least Silva fought another striker. And Grasso was in the best case scenario because good and well Silva wasn't about to shoot no takedown on Grasso. So Grasso didn't even have to think about a takedown when she was fighting Silva. As opposed to when she was fighting Val, that's probably the only thing she could think of in that third fight, right? So for me, in so many different ways, whether you forget about me being a fan of Silva or anybody being a fan of Silva, just from a logical perspective, why do you want less people on win streaks on the come up than more? Why would you want to ruin a 7-fight win streak potentially when you could have a 7-fight win streak or at a bare minimum a 2-fight win streak in Manon going up against the winner or whoever is champion? It just, like, from a promoter standpoint, from a fan standpoint, from a logic standpoint, it just does not make sense. It's a bit of a rant, but I at least try to apply a little bit or as much logic as I can to it, because for me, it just don't sit right with me, man. But let me know if you feel like commenting. Let me know how you feel. For me, I'm starting to think that either Silva or her team must have pissed off the UFC, man. It's 2 beasts.